My card declined. Then my backup card declined. The cashier stared at me, and the line behind me grew restless. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. The number made my stomach drop. $7,380 in charges I never made. Designer sneakers. Gaming equipment. Plane tickets. My eyes locked on one purchase detail, and my blood went ice cold. The name attached to the transaction was Kyle. My brother Kyle. I abandoned my groceries right there in the aisle and stumbled outside. My fingers fumbled as I called him, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. He answered on the third ring, and I could hear laughter in the background. Music. The sound of a party. Kyle, what did you do to my credit cards? I demanded, my voice cracking. He laughed. Actually laughed. Relax, Marin. You owe me anyway. I owe you? I owe you what? Everything, he said casually. For being your brother. For all those times I had your back. I'm just collecting what's mine. I stood there, frozen, listening to him justify theft like it was a favor. If you're watching this video, please like, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching my revenge story from. I want to know how far it has traveled. My name is Marin Holloway. I'm 32 years old, and I just discovered my brother committed fraud. But this was only the beginning. You can't just take my money, Kyle. That's theft, I said, my voice shaking with rage and disbelief. He scoffed on the other end. Theft? Come on. We're family. What's yours is mine, right? Besides, you've always had more than me. Time to even things out. I felt my face burn hot. I earned that money. I work 50 hours a week. You had no right. No right? His tone shifted, mocking now. You got the college fund. You got the car. You got everything handed to you while I got scraps. So yeah, I think I have every right. None of that was true. Our parents split everything equally. If anything, Kyle got more because he kept asking for bailouts. But he'd rewritten history in his head, and now I was the villain. Kyle, I'm not playing around. Pay me back, or I'm reporting this. He went silent for a moment. Then he laughed again, darker this time. You wouldn't. Family doesn't call the cops on family, Marin. You're too soft for that. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, hands trembling. Within seconds, another notification popped up. A $1,200 flight to Las Vegas, booked under my card. He wasn't stopping. He was daring me. I sat in my car, staring at the charges, memories flooding back. Kyle had always been the golden child. Charming, funny, the one everyone forgave. Mom called him her wild one with a smile. Dad said he just needed time to find himself. Meanwhile, I was the responsible one. The quiet fixer who cleaned up messes without complaint. When Kyle wrecked his car at 19, I loaned him money for repairs. When he got fired from 3 jobs in 2 years, I helped with rent. When he needed a cosigner for an apartment, I signed. Every time, he promised to pay me back. He never did. And I never pushed. That's what you did in our family. You swallowed your frustration and kept the peace. You protected the family name. You stayed quiet. But this wasn't borrowing $20 for gas. This was fraud. This was identity theft. This was him looking me in the eye, laughing, and stealing from me like I was nothing. My phone buzzed. It was Mom. Marin, Kyle told me you're upset about some misunderstanding with your credit card. Can you just talk to him calmly? He's under a lot of stress right now. A misunderstanding. He'd already spun the story. I didn't respond. I just sat there, realizing I was completely alone. I called the credit card company. The representative was polite but firm. "Ma'am, these charges were authorized using your account credentials. If you're claiming fraud, you'll need to file a police report." "I'm claiming fraud because it is fraud," I said. "My brother stole my information." "I understand. But without a police report, we can't reverse the charges. You'll also need to freeze your credit immediately." I hung up and called Kyle again. This time, I didn't yell. I kept my voice steady. "Kyle, I'm going to the police." He sighed dramatically. "No, you're not." "Yes, I am. You committed a crime." "A crime?" "Jesus, Marin, stop being so dramatic. I borrowed some money. I'll pay you back eventually." "You didn't borrow. You stole." "There's a difference." "You know what? Go ahead. Call the cops. See what happens." His voice dripped with arrogance. "You'll look like the bad guy. The sister who destroyed her brother over a few dollars. Mom will never forgive you. Neither will Dad. You really want that?" My throat tightened. He knew exactly how to twist the knife. "You're too soft, Marin. You always have been. That's why people walk all over you." He hung up again. And I sat there, shaking, hating that part of me believed him. I called my credit card company back and requested a detailed transaction report. That's when I noticed something strange. Several charges were made using a card I never applied for. A second card in my name, linked to my account, but I never requested it. "Ma'am, according to our records, you applied for this card online 3 months ago," the representative said. "I didn't apply for anything," I insisted. "The application was submitted using your email address and verified with your security questions." I pulled up my email and searched. Nothing. Then I checked my spam folder. Still nothing. I tried a different search. My middle name, Elise. And there it was. A Gmail account I didn't recognize. marinelise472@gmail.com. Someone had created a fake email address using my name. Inside were dozens of emails. Credit card applications. Loan inquiries. Account verifications. He'd been planning this. 4 months. My chest tightened. This wasn't impulsive. This wasn't desperation. This was premeditated identity theft. Kyle had researched. He'd set up fake accounts. He'd bypassed security protocols. He knew exactly what he was doing. I took screenshots of everything. Then I checked my credit report. My score had dropped 104 points in 3 months. New accounts I never opened. Hard inquiries I never authorized. Kyle didn't just steal my money. He stole my identity. 2 days later, Kyle showed up at my apartment. I hadn't invited him. I'd barely spoken to him since our last call. But there he was, standing in my doorway with takeout bags and that easy grin he always used to disarm people. "Hey, sis. Thought we could talk. Clear the air." I crossed my arms. "You can talk from there." He rolled his eyes and walked past me anyway, setting the food on my kitchen counter. "Come on, Marin. Don't be like that. I brought Thai food. Your favorite. Bought with my money," I said flatly. He shrugged, opening containers like nothing was wrong. "Look, I know you're upset. But you're blowing this way out of proportion. It's not like I robbed you at gunpoint. You stole $7,000 from me, Kyle. You opened credit cards in my name. You tanked my credit score." He waved his hand dismissively. "Credit scores recover. You'll be fine. You've always been fine." I stared at him, stunned by his complete lack of remorse. He was eating noodles from a container, scrolling through his phone, acting like this was a minor inconvenience. Then he did something that made my skin crawl. He reached over, opened my laptop, and logged into my online banking without asking. "What are you doing?" I snapped, slamming the laptop shut. "Relax. I was just checking something." "Get out." He looked at me, genuinely surprised. "Seriously? You're kicking me out over this? Get out." He left. But the damage was done. He had my passwords. He had access. And I realized I didn't feel safe in my own home. I changed every password that night. Bank accounts, email, credit cards, social media, everything. Then I enabled two-factor authentication on every platform. But it didn't feel like enough. Kyle had been in my apartment. He'd touched my laptop. What else had he accessed? I checked my bank account again. My rent money was gone. An entire month's rent, transferred to an account I didn't recognize. I called the bank immediately. "The transfer was initiated from your device, using your login credentials," the representative explained. "I didn't authorize it. My brother did. He was in my apartment." "Do you live together?" "No." He broke in. There was a pause. "Ma'am, if someone accessed your account without permission, you need to file a police report. We can't reverse the transaction without proof of unauthorized access." I hung up, my hands trembling. I pulled up my security camera footage. I'd installed a camera near my front door months ago after a neighbor's apartment was broken into. I scrolled back through the recordings. And there it was. Kyle. Letting himself in with a spare key I'd given him years ago. Walking through my apartment like he owned it. Sitting at my desk. Opening my laptop. He'd come back after I kicked him out. In the middle of the night. While I was asleep. I felt sick. Mom called the next morning and asked me to come to dinner. "Both of you," she said. "We need to talk about this as a family." I didn't want to go. But I knew if I refused, it would make things worse. So I showed up at my parents' house that evening, my stomach in knots. Kyle was already there, sitting at the table with a somber expression. The moment I walked in, Mom hugged me tight. "I'm so glad you came. We need to work this out." Dad nodded from his chair. Family sticks together, no matter what. I sat down, feeling like I was walking into an ambush. Kyle looked at me with sad eyes, the kind he used when he wanted sympathy. "Marin, I'm really sorry. I messed up. I just needed help and I didn't know how to ask." Mom reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "See? He's apologizing. That's what matters." "He didn't apologize for stealing," I said quietly. "He apologized for getting caught." Mom's face hardened. "Marin, don't be cruel. He made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pay me back $20. This is fraud." Kyle's eyes welled up with tears. Actual tears. "I've been struggling, okay? I lost my job. I'm behind on bills. I didn't know what else to do." "You could have asked," I said. "Instead, you stole." Mom stood up, her voice sharp now. "Enough. You're making this ugly, Marin. He's your brother. He's family." And just like that, I was the villain. That night, the family group chat exploded. Kyle had posted a screenshot. A text message thread that looked like a conversation between us. In it, I supposedly told him he could use my credit card for emergencies. Except I never sent those messages. The screenshot was fake. Edited. But no one questioned it. My aunt commented first. "See? She gave him permission. Why is she making such a big deal out of this? My cousin chimed in. Marin, this is really selfish. He's family. Uncle Dan posted a long message about forgiveness and Christian values. How holding grudges destroys families. How I needed to let this go. I typed out a response 3 times and deleted it each time. What was the point? Kyle had already shaped the narrative. I was the cold, heartless sister. He was the struggling victim. Then I noticed something in the screenshot. The font was wrong. The timestamp didn't match. I zoomed in and saw pixels around the text that didn't align with the rest of the image. Kyle had photoshopped the entire conversation. I took my own screenshots and sent them to my lawyer. Because at that point, I'd already hired one. A fraud attorney named Patricia Gaines. She'd looked at my case and said, this isn't just theft. This is identity theft. We need to report this to federal authorities. I was done playing nice. Patricia worked fast. Within days, she filed reports with the Federal Trade Commission and contacted the FBI's Identity Theft Division. She explained that Kyle's actions weren't just civil fraud. They were federal crimes. Wire fraud. Identity theft. Forgery, she listed. Each carries serious penalties. The fact that he crossed state lines by booking flights and making online purchases makes this a federal case. I sat in her office, processing the weight of her words. What happens next? We build a case. Gather every piece of evidence. Bank statements. Emails. Security footage. Credit reports. Everything. I nodded, my hands folded tightly in my lap. For the first time in weeks, I felt like someone was on my side. That evening, I checked my mailbox and found something strange. A letter addressed to Kyle. At my address. I opened it, my heart pounding. It was from the IRS. Inside was a notice about unreported income. Kyle had registered an LLC. And he'd listed me as a partner. My income, my tax information, all tied to a business I knew nothing about. I called Patricia immediately. She didn't even sound surprised. This is escalating. He's not just stealing from you. He's using your identity for tax fraud. That's a felony. What do I do? We send this to the FBI. Tonight. I hung up and stared at the letter. Kyle wasn't just desperate. He was dangerous. I couldn't sleep that night. Every sound made me jump. Every shadow felt like a threat. I kept thinking about Kyle sneaking into my apartment. About him accessing my accounts. About the IRS letter. The next morning, I went to a hardware store and bought a new deadbolt. Then I bought a second security camera. I installed one near my front door and another in my home office. If Kyle came back, I'd have proof. 2 nights later, he did. I was watching TV when my phone buzzed with a motion alert. I pulled up the camera feed and watched in real time as Kyle approached my door. He tried his old key. It didn't work. He stood there for a moment, looking around. Then he pulled out his phone, held it up, and took pictures of the envelopes sticking out of my mailbox. My hands shook as I recorded the footage on my phone. He was stalking me now. Documenting my mail. I texted Patricia the video immediately. Her response came fast. Call the police. Now. This is harassment and trespassing. I didn't call the police. Not yet. Because I knew Kyle would twist it. He'd say he was just checking on me. That I was overreacting. That I was making him out to be a criminal when he was just trying to fix things. But I saved every second of footage. Because I knew I'd need it. The next day, I confronted him. I sent him the video with one message. I have proof. Stop. He called me 30 seconds later, screaming. You set up cameras? Are you insane? You're spying on your own brother? You're sneaking into my apartment and stealing my mail. What did you expect? I wasn't stealing. I was checking. You've been acting paranoid lately. Because you've been stalking me. He laughed bitterly. Stalking? Jesus, Marin. You've lost it. You know what? Fine. You want to play games? Let's play. He hung up. 3 hours later, I got an email from my boss. HR wanted to see me. Immediately. I walked into the office, confused and anxious. My manager, Mrs. Brennan, sat across from me with a grim expression. Marin, we received some concerning emails about you. Anonymous emails. Accusing you of embezzlement. My stomach dropped. What? That's not true. I would never. We know, she interrupted. We've reviewed your accounts. Everything checks out. But we need to know where these accusations are coming from. I took a breath. My brother. He's been harassing me. I can prove it. Mrs. Brennan nodded slowly. We traced the IP address. The emails came from an apartment complex in Riverside. Do you know anyone there? I did. That's where Kyle lived. I left work early, my mind spinning. Kyle wasn't just stealing anymore. He was trying to destroy me. My finances. My credit. My reputation. My job. He wanted me to lose everything so I'd drop the case. I drove home in a daze, barely seeing the road. When I got to my apartment, I locked the door behind me and slid down to the floor. I sat there, knees pulled to my chest, tears streaming down my face. No one believed me. My family sided with Kyle. My mother told me I was overreacting. My father said I was being vindictive. Even my friends seemed uncomfortable when I talked about it. Like I was the one making things awkward. I felt so powerless. So small. Like no matter what I did, Kyle would always win. Because he was louder. Because he was more charming. Because he knew how to play the victim. But then I remembered Patricia's words. Build your case. Let the evidence speak for itself. I wiped my face, stood up, and walked to my desk. I pulled out my laptop and opened a new spreadsheet. I titled it Evidence Against Kyle Holloway. And then I started filling it in. Every charge. Every fake email. Every lie. Every piece of footage. Every forged document. If no one would believe me, I'd make them see the truth. I worked on that spreadsheet for 3 days straight. I tracked every transaction Kyle made with my cards. Every login to my accounts. Every fake email he created. I cross-referenced dates and times. I pulled bank statements going back 3 years. And that's when I saw the pattern. Kyle had been stealing from me for 3 years. Small amounts at first. $20 here. $50 there. Charges I'd assumed were mistakes or fees. But they weren't mistakes. They were tests. He was seeing how much he could take before I noticed. Then the amounts got bigger. $100. $200. By the time I caught him, he'd stolen over $15,000 total. I documented everything in a 74-page timeline. Every fraud. Every lie. Every crime. I included screenshots, receipts, emails, security footage, and witness statements. When I finished, I sent it to Patricia. She called me an hour later. Marin, this is incredible. You just handed the FBI everything they need. Is it enough? More than enough. I'm sending this directly to the federal agents assigned to your case. I hung up and felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. Not revenge. Not anger. Just hope that maybe, finally, someone would hold Kyle accountable. The call came 2 weeks later. A federal investigator named Agent Torres. His voice was calm and professional. Ms. Holloway, we've reviewed your case. We're opening a formal investigation into Kyle Holloway for wire fraud, identity theft, and tax fraud. My heart pounded. What does that mean? It means we have enough evidence to pursue federal charges. We'll be issuing a subpoena for his financial records and conducting interviews. I'll need you to come in and give a formal statement. I did. I sat in a federal building for 3 hours, recounting every detail. Agent Torres took notes, asked questions, and assured me they were taking this seriously. Cases like this take time, he warned. But we'll see it through. I left feeling surreal. This was really happening. Kyle was going to face consequences. Real consequences. A week later, my phone buzzed with a video from a mutual friend. It showed Kyle's apartment building swarmed with federal agents. They were carrying boxes out. Executing a search warrant. Kyle was being investigated. And he had no idea it was coming. Kyle called me from a federal detention center. I didn't answer. He called again. And again. On the 5th call, I picked up. Marin, please. You have to help me. His voice was shaking, desperate. They arrested me. They're saying I committed fraud. That I stole from you. But you know that's not true. Right? You know I was just borrowing. I said nothing. Marin, please. They're talking about years in prison. Federal prison. You don't know what they'll do to me in there. You have to drop the charges. Please. I'm begging you. I stayed silent. Let him sit in his panic. Let him feel what I felt when he stole from me. When he gaslit me. When he tried to destroy my life. Marin, say something. Please. I hung up. And I blocked his number. 10 minutes later, I got a message from someone I didn't recognize. A woman named Becca. You don't know me, but I'm Kyle's ex-girlfriend. I need to talk to you. There's something you don't know. I met Becca at a coffee shop the next day. She was nervous, fidgeting with her cup. I heard about what happened. About the charges. And I had to reach out because he did the same thing to me. My stomach sank. What do you mean? She pulled out her phone and showed me screenshots. Bank transfers. Credit card charges. Fake emails. He moved in with me 2 years ago. Within 3 months, my savings were gone. He opened credit cards in my name. Maxed them out. When I confronted him, he told me I owed him for rent and food. That I was selfish. I felt sick. Did you report him? I tried. But I didn't have proof. He'd covered his tracks. And when I threatened to go to the police, he told everyone I was unstable. That I was making it up. My own friends didn't believe me. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. I believe you. She cried. We both did. And then we exchanged every piece of evidence we had. Text messages. Emails. Transaction records. Becca wasn't the only victim. There were others. A former roommate. An ex-coworker. Kyle had a pattern. Patricia added Becca's testimony to the federal complaint. This strengthens the case significantly. It shows intent and pattern. He's not a desperate brother. He's a serial fraudster. The federal indictment came through 2 months later. 5 counts. Wire fraud. Identity theft. Tax fraud. Forgery. Conspiracy to commit fraud. Kyle was formally charged. And a court date was set. Patricia asked if I wanted to attend. I said yes. I needed to see it. I needed to watch him face the consequences he spent years avoiding. The day of the hearing, I sat in the courtroom, my hands folded in my lap. Kyle was brought in wearing an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs. He looked smaller somehow. Deflated. When his eyes met mine, he looked away. The judge read the charges. Kyle's lawyer tried to argue for bail. The prosecutor presented evidence of flight risk. Kyle had booked multiple one-way tickets out of state in the weeks before his arrest. The judge denied bail. Mr. Holloway, you are remanded to federal custody pending trial. Kyle's face went pale. He looked at me one last time, and I felt nothing. No guilt. No sadness. Just relief. As I left the courtroom, the prosecutor stopped me. Ms. Holloway, your case helped us identify 4 other victims. Thank you for coming forward. I nodded. Thank you for listening. The sentencing hearing came 6 months later. Kyle had taken a plea deal to avoid trial. He pleaded guilty to 3 counts in exchange for a reduced sentence. The judge sentenced him to 3 years in federal prison. Plus restitution. He'd have to pay back every dollar he stole. From me. From Becca. From everyone. When the gavel came down, I felt a weight lift off my chest. It was over. Really over. Outside the courthouse, Patricia hugged me. You did it, Marin. You stood up for yourself when no one else would. I drove home that day and finally felt safe. I checked my credit report. My score was recovering. The fraudulent accounts were closed. The debts were cleared. My name was mine again. I unblocked my mom's number. She'd sent me a letter weeks ago. An apology. She said she finally saw the truth. That Kyle had manipulated all of them. That she was sorry for not believing me. I forgave her. But I told her I wouldn't forget. That things between us would never be the same. She understood. A year later, I moved to a new apartment. A fresh start. New locks. New address. New life. I changed jobs too. Found a position with better pay and a team that respected me. My credit was fully restored. My savings account was growing again. I'd even started therapy to process everything. The betrayal. The gaslighting. The isolation. One evening, I met Becca for dinner. We'd stayed in touch. Become friends. She told me she'd started her own business and was thriving. I never thought I'd feel safe again, she admitted. But I do now. Because of you. I smiled. We did it together. That night, I sat on my balcony with a cup of tea, looking out at the city lights. My phone buzzed. A notification from the federal prison system. Kyle had tried to add me to his approved contact list. I declined it. And I blocked the notification. I didn't need closure from him. I'd already found it. My story wasn't about revenge. It was about choosing myself. About refusing to stay silent. About understanding that family doesn't mean letting someone destroy you. If someone steals your peace, your safety, or your name, choose you. Every single time. Because you deserve better. And you always did. 3 months after Kyle's sentencing, I received an email from Agent Torres. The subject line read "Additional Developments." I opened it with shaky hands. Inside was an update. Kyle's case had led to a larger investigation. The fake LLC he'd created in my name was connected to a tax fraud ring. 5 other people were involved, including his former business partner and a corrupt accountant. Your testimony and documentation helped us dismantle an entire operation, Agent Torres wrote. You may be called as a witness in additional cases. I forwarded the email to Patricia. She called me immediately. Marin, this is significant. You didn't just stop Kyle. You helped expose a criminal network. I sat there, processing. My brother hadn't just betrayed me. He'd been part of something bigger. Something organized. And my refusal to stay quiet had brought it all down. That evening, I got a message from another woman. Her name was Simone. Kyle Holloway defrauded my mother last year, she wrote. The FBI gave me your contact. Thank you for having the courage to report him. My mom is 73. She almost lost her house. I cried reading that message. Not from sadness. From relief. From knowing that speaking up had protected other people. I replied, I'm so sorry for what happened to your mother. I'm glad she's okay now. She responded, she is. Because of you. I attended the additional court hearings as a witness. Sitting in those courtrooms, listening to other victims share their stories, I realized how many lives Kyle had damaged. Elderly people. Single mothers. Veterans. He'd targeted vulnerable people systematically. The judge in one case said something that stuck with me. Fraud isn't just about money. It's about trust. It's about safety. It's about dignity. And those things, once stolen, are hard to restore. After the hearing, a woman approached me in the hallway. She was older, maybe in her 60s. You're Marin, right? Kyle's sister? I nodded, bracing myself. I just wanted to say thank you, she said, her voice trembling. My son was one of his victims. We thought we were alone. But you proved we weren't. You gave us permission to speak up. I hugged her. We stood there in that courthouse hallway, two strangers connected by the same pain, holding each other. That night, I wrote in my journal for the first time in months. I thought reporting Kyle would make me the villain. Instead, it made me a voice for people who'd been silenced. I don't regret it. Not for a second. A year and a half after Kyle's sentencing, I got a letter from him. It had been forwarded through Patricia's office. She'd screened it first to make sure it wasn't threatening. It's an apology, she told me over the phone. Or at least, it's trying to be. You don't have to read it if you don't want to. I thought about it for a week. Then I opened it. The letter was 3 pages long. Kyle wrote about prison. About therapy. About finally understanding what he'd done. I destroyed you, he wrote. I destroyed everyone who trusted me. And I did it because I felt entitled to things I didn't earn. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. I just want you to know that I see it now. I see what I did. I read it twice. Then I folded it and put it in a drawer. I didn't respond. Maybe one day I would. But not today. Forgiveness wasn't something I owed him. It was something I gave myself. And I'd already done that by choosing to move forward. Patricia called a few days later. The restitution payments started coming through. You'll receive monthly deposits until the full amount is repaid. It would take years. But I'd get my money back. Every dollar. And that felt like justice. I celebrated my 34th birthday surrounded by people who actually cared about me. Becca was there. My coworkers. A few friends I'd reconnected with after cutting off the toxic family members who'd sided with Kyle. My mom wasn't there. We were still rebuilding trust. She apologized multiple times, but words only went so far. She had to prove through actions that she believed me now. That she wouldn't choose Kyle's comfort over my safety ever again. My dad sent a card. Inside, he'd written, "I'm sorry I didn't protect you. I should have listened. I hope one day you can forgive me. I tucked the card into my drawer next to Kyle's letter. Forgiveness would come. But on my terms. In my time. That evening, Becca raised her glass. To Marin. The woman who refused to stay silent. Who taught us all that choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. Everyone clinked glasses. And I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Real, deep, unshakable peace. I'd survived the betrayal. I'd survived the gaslighting. I'd survived the isolation. And I'd come out stronger. Not bitter. Not broken. Just wiser. Later that night, I stood on my balcony, looking out at the city. My phone buzzed with a notification. My credit score had hit 780. Excellent range. I smiled. I'd rebuilt everything Kyle tried to destroy. And I did it without him. 2 years after everything started, I launched a blog. It was called Choosing Yourself, Stories of Financial Abuse and Recovery. I shared my story. Becca shared hers. Other victims reached out and shared theirs. The blog grew. Thousands of people read it. Commented. Shared their own experiences. I started getting messages from people who were going through similar situations. People who felt alone. Who felt guilty for wanting to report family members. You gave me the courage to file a police report, one woman wrote. My uncle stole my identity. I thought I had to protect him because he's family. But your story showed me that protecting myself isn't betrayal. I cried reading messages like that. Because I understood that feeling. That guilt. That fear. One afternoon, I got an email from a nonprofit organization. They wanted me to speak at a conference about financial abuse. Your story is powerful, the director wrote. And it could help so many people. I accepted. And when I stood on that stage, looking out at hundreds of faces, I realized something. Kyle tried to take everything from me. My money. My credit. My reputation. My peace. But he couldn't take my voice. And that voice had become something bigger than me. It had become a lifeline for others. I ended my speech with the same words I'd told myself when I was at my lowest. If someone steals your peace, your safety, or your name, choose you. Every single time. You deserve protection. You deserve justice. And you deserve a life free from people who hurt you, even if those people are family. Blood doesn't give anyone the right to bleed you dry. Remember that. And choose yourself. The room erupted in applause. And I finally understood that my story wasn't just about what Kyle did to me. It was about what I did for myself. I chose me. And that choice saved my life. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What does family mean to you? Please share below and subscribe to this channel for more stories like mine.